Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Are you actually bad with money, or are you just being cheap in the wrong places? Because being cheap does not make you smart. In many cases, it is the exact reason you are still broke. I have seen this again and again. People skip books, avoid learning new skills, refuse to invest in themselves, and then wonder why their income never grows. They save pennies but lose years. Today, I am going to show you why being cheap feels safe, why it quietly keeps you poor, and how wealthy people think very differently about money. If you change this mindset, your financial life will change faster than any budget or savings hack. Most people believe the fastest way to improve their finances is to cut spending. They hunt for discounts, switch brands, and feel proud when they save a few dollars. On the surface, this feels responsible. But here is the hard truth. You can only cut expenses so far. There is a floor to how little you can spend, but there is no ceiling on how much you can earn. When all your energy goes into saving money instead of making money, you trap yourself in a very small financial box. Cheap thinking is focused on avoidance. Avoid paying more. Avoid risk. Avoid spending at all costs. Smart spending is focused on return. What does this money bring back to me over time? Does it increase my income, my skills, my speed, or my reach? Wealth is not built by protecting every dollar. It is built by putting dollars where they can grow. Think about the difference between saving and investing. Saving keeps money safe, but it does not move your life forward in a meaningful way. Investing, when done intelligently, creates momentum. The same idea applies to everyday decisions. Paying for a course that upgrades your skills can feel expensive in the moment, but the income it can generate over the next 10 years makes the original cost almost irrelevant. Cheap thinking only sees the price. Smart spending sees the outcome. People who stay stuck financially often brag about how little they spend, but they rarely talk about how little they earn. They celebrate cutting a subscription, yet ignore the fact that their income has not changed in years. This mindset rewards short-term comfort instead of long-term growth. It feels good today, but it quietly limits tomorrow. Wealthy individuals do not ask, "How can I spend less?" They ask, "How can this money work harder for me?" They understand that money is a tool, not a trophy to be locked away. When you direct money toward things that expand your earning ability, you create leverage. Leverage means your effort produces more results without needing more hours. The shift from cheap to smart spending is not about being reckless. It is about being intentional. Every dollar should have a job. Some dollars protect stability, and others are meant to create growth. When you start prioritizing returns over savings alone, your financial world begins to expand. This is the moment when money stops feeling scarce and starts becoming powerful. Being cheap does more than limit your spending. It quietly closes doors before you even see what is on the other side. Opportunities rarely announce themselves as safe, guaranteed, or cheap. They usually show up disguised as a cost, a risk, or an uncomfortable decision. When your default reaction is to protect every dollar, you automatically reject the very things that could move your life forward. Many people believe opportunity comes from luck or connections, but in reality it often comes from proximity. Proximity to people who think bigger, earn more, and operate at a higher level. That proximity almost always has a price. It might be the cost of attending an event, joining a program, or simply being in rooms where ambitious conversations happen. Cheap thinking says that is unnecessary. Smart thinking recognizes that access changes perspective, and perspective changes income. When you avoid spending on tools, education, or experiences that stretch you, you also avoid growth. You stay surrounded by the same ideas, the same habits, and the same limitations. Over time, this becomes your comfort zone. It feels safe, but it is also the reason nothing changes. Opportunity requires exposure to new information and new ways of thinking. Without that exposure, progress slows down or stops completely. Being cheap also creates a habit of delay. You tell yourself you will act later when things are clearer or cheaper or safer. But later often never comes. While you wait, others move. They learn faster, connect earlier, and position themselves ahead. Opportunity has a timing element. Miss the moment, and the value drops or disappears. Cheap thinking misses timing because it values money in the present more than growth in the future. There is also a hidden cost to staying cheap. It trains your mind to focus on loss instead of gain. Every decision becomes about what you might lose rather than what you could build. This mindset shrinks ambition. You stop asking bigger questions because bigger questions usually come with bigger commitments. Over time, this mental habit shapes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who goes after opportunity, but as someone who plays defense. Wealthy people understand that opportunity is not free. It never has been. They see spending on access, learning, and connection as a form of positioning. They are not buying information alone. They are buying speed, clarity, and entry into higher-level environments. When you stop being cheap with opportunity, you stop living on the sidelines. You step into the flow where growth actually happens. Most people treat time as something flexible and money as something precious. Wealthy thinkers do the opposite. They understand that money can be earned again, but time never comes back. Every hour wasted on low-value tasks is an hour that could have been used to create income, build skills, or deepen relationships that open doors. When you are cheap with money, you often end up being careless with time, and that trait is always bad. Doing everything yourself feels responsible. You save a little cash and feel productive. But productivity is not the same as progress. Spending hours on tasks that do not increase your earning power gives the illusion of control while quietly draining your most limited resource. Over months and years, this habit compounds in the wrong direction. You stay busy, but you stay in the same place. People who build wealth learn to separate tasks by value. Some activities move the needle, and many do not. When you insist on handling everything on your own just to avoid paying, you anchor your income to your personal hours. That means growth is slow and capped. Time-aware thinking looks for ways to multiply effort, not just reduce expenses. It is the difference between trading hours for money and building systems that keep working even when you stop. There is also an emotional cost to wasting time. Constantly rushing, juggling, and catching up creates mental fatigue. When your energy is spent on small, repetitive tasks, you have less clarity and creativity for bigger decisions. Important choices get delayed or avoided because you are exhausted. Over time, this drains momentum and confidence. You feel stuck not because you lack ability, but because your attention is scattered. Cheap thinking asks, "How can I avoid paying?" Time-aware thinking asks, "What is this hour worth?" When you start valuing your time properly, your decisions change. You become more selective. You protect your focus. You stop apologizing for prioritizing work that actually moves your life forward. This shift alone can dramatically increase both income and quality of life. Wealth is not just about how much money you have. It is about how you use your days. People who respect time build leverage. They design their lives so effort produces results beyond the moment it is applied. When you stop sacrificing time to save small amounts of money, you open space for growth. That is when progress accelerates and financial pressure starts to ease. Not because you worked more, but because you worked on the right things. Buying cheap often feels like a win in the moment. You pay less, walk away satisfied, and tell yourself you made a smart decision. But over time, cheap choices have a habit of coming back to collect interest. Lower quality usually means more repairs, more replacements, more frustration, and more time spent fixing problems that never should have existed in the first place. What looked like savings slowly turns into a drain. Quality is not about luxury or showing off. It is about reliability and performance. When something is built well, it does its job without demanding constant attention. That stability has value. It frees your mind and your schedule, allowing you to focus on higher value work. Cheap items break, fail, or slow you down at the worst moments. The hidden cost is not just money, it is distraction and lost momentum. People who think long-term understand that price and cost are not the same thing. Price is what you pay today. Cost is what you keep paying over time. Cheap thinking fixates on price and ignores everything that follows. Quality, focused thinking looks at the full picture. How long will this last? How often will it need replacing? What problems will it prevent? When you zoom out, higher quality often ends up being the cheaper option. This applies far beyond physical products. It shows up in services, education, and even relationships. Choosing the cheapest option often means dealing with delays, mistakes, and miscommunication. You spend extra hours correcting issues that could have been avoided. That time has value even if it does not show up on a receipt. Over years, those small inefficiencies add up and quietly limit progress. There is also a mindset shift that happens when you choose quality. You start expecting better results. You treat your tools, your work, and yourself with more respect. That standard influences how you show up in other areas of life. Cheap choices can reinforce a sense of scarcity. Quality choices reinforce a belief in stability and growth. That belief shapes behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. Wealthy people are not careless spenders, but they are decisive. They would rather pay once and move on than constantly revisit the same problem. They value durability, clarity, and peace of mind. When you stop chasing the lowest price and start valuing long-term performance, you reduce friction in your life. Less friction means more focus, more energy, and better results. Over time, those advantages compound, not loudly, but consistently, and that consistency is where real wealth is built. Many people believe they are being disciplined with money, but in reality they are being driven by fear. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of losing what little they have. Fear of looking foolish for trying something new. To make that fear feel respectable, they label it as caution or responsibility. On the surface, it sounds wise. Underneath, it quietly keeps them stuck in the same financial position year after year. True discipline has a plan behind it. It is intentional and forward-looking. Fear-based behavior is reactive. It focuses on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. When fear is in control, every decision feels heavy. You hesitate, overthink, and delay. Opportunities pass not because they were bad, but because fear convinced you it was safer to do nothing. Calling fear discipline also creates a false sense of progress. You feel good for not spending, not risking, not moving. But avoidance is not growth. Over time, this pattern builds a lifestyle of restraint rather than expansion. You become skilled at protecting your comfort zone, not improving your financial reality. The problem is that comfort zones do not generate wealth. They preserve the status quo. Fear disguised as discipline also distorts how you evaluate risk. You start treating all risk as dangerous, even when some risk is necessary for progress. Meanwhile, the risk of staying the same goes unnoticed. Inflation, missed income growth, and lost learning compound silently in the background. Doing nothing feels safe, but it has a cost that is easy to ignore because it does not show up immediately. There is a psychological toll as well. Constantly holding back creates tension. You second-guess yourself and lose confidence in your judgment. Over time, you stop trusting your ability to make good decisions, so you default to inaction. This reinforces the belief that you are not ready or capable, even when that is not true. Fear feeds on this loop. Wealthy thinkers understand that discipline is not about avoiding discomfort. It is about managing it. They accept that some uncertainty is part of growth. Instead of asking how to eliminate risk completely, they ask how to understand it and handle it intelligently. When you stop confusing fear with discipline, you gain clarity. Decisions become grounded in logic rather than emotion. That clarity is powerful because it allows you to move forward with confidence instead of staying frozen while calling it smart. Most people spend money to feel good in the moment. Entertainment, convenience, and small comforts provide quick relief from stress and boredom. There is nothing wrong with enjoying life, but when the majority of spending goes toward comfort, growth quietly takes a back seat. Comfort feels rewarding today, but it rarely changes tomorrow. Skills, on the other hand, keep paying long after the initial effort is done. Comfort spending is easy because it asks nothing from you. You consume, relax, and move on. Skill spending requires effort, focus, and sometimes frustration. It forces you to confront what you do not know and where you need to improve. That discomfort is exactly why it works. Growth does not happen in comfort. It happens when you stretch your abilities and upgrade how you think and operate. Skills increase your earning power. They make you more valuable in the marketplace, more adaptable to change, and harder to replace. Unlike material comforts, skills cannot be taken away. They travel with you across jobs, industries, and even countries. When you invest in skills, you are investing in long-term independence. Your income becomes less dependent on a single employer or situation. Many people hesitate to spend on skill development because the return is not immediate. You do not see results the next day, and that uncertainty feels risky. But comfort spending has a guaranteed outcome. The money is gone, and nothing changes. Skill spending has delayed gratification, but it compounds. A new skill can unlock higher pay, new opportunities, and better decisions for decades. There is also a mindset shift that comes with prioritizing skills. You stop seeing yourself as a consumer and start seeing yourself as a builder. Your identity changes. You become someone who is growing, learning, and improving. That identity influences daily choices. You read differently, listen differently, and surround yourself with people who challenge you instead of just entertaining you. Wealth is not built by chasing pleasure or avoiding effort. It is built by increasing value. When you choose skills over comfort, you are choosing progress over temporary relief. That choice might not look exciting in the moment, but over time it creates confidence, freedom, and options. Skills turn money into leverage, and leverage is what separates those who struggle financially from those who stay in control of their future. Let me leave you with this thought. Money problems are rarely about income alone. They are about habits, priorities, and the stories we tell ourselves to feel safe. Being cheap feels responsible, but responsibility without growth leads to stagnation. If you protect every dollar but never invest in your future, you are not being careful, you are being limited. Wealth is not built by avoiding spending. It is built by spending with purpose. Every dollar you control should either protect your foundation or expand your potential. When you understand that difference, money stops being something you fear and starts becoming something you direct. The shift is simple, but it is not easy. It requires you to stop thinking like someone trying not to lose and start thinking like someone building something bigger. That means valuing time, choosing quality, stepping into opportunity, and investing in skills that increase your value year after year. You do not get rich by being reckless, and you do not get wealthy by being cheap. You build wealth by being intentional. When you change how you think about spending, you change how money shows up in your life. So the question is not how much you can save this month. The real question is how much stronger, smarter, and more valuable you are willing to become. Answer that honestly, and your financial future will take care of the rest.